This week on Half Step Down, Renee gets excited.
I was like, yes, why? Of course. Why didn't I pick that? Damn it.
Jose exposes a dark secret. There's so many like Led Zeppelin songs that are about Lord of the Rings. And the boys struggle over a song title. Renee, how do you say the name of this song?
I don't know.
Sika Mika Nako.
Yeah.
Sika Mika Manako. I don't know. Hey, we may not look like much, but we got it where it counts, kids. Half Step Down starts now. I agree. I agree. That's how I feel right now too.
I don't know where I was for a second. I was in the middle of drumming, and then I was just like, what are we doing?
You had the rhythm within you, sir. The rhythm within you.
Yeah, I had the rhythm of the night.
Oh my! Is it Reebok or Nike?
Yeah, esos son Reebok con son Nike.
You guys, real quick. You guys probably just got a notification because someone texted it and my phone thing was on. So, go ahead.
Jose, I have a really interesting story that we're going to segue into our episode.
Okay.
I want to talk about how rude you are to me.
Okay.
Let's talk about. I'm gonna say a little story about my cousin being rude to me, but I give him the benefit of the doubt because I love him. So. Are you familiar with you are, right? Obviously. Are you familiar with the animated film Star Wars The Clone Wars? The film, not the show, right? And
are you asking me if I'm familiar? Because I was at the story. The story is about me.
All right, well, there's a movie called Star Wars The Clone Wars. It's an animated movie. And I have called Jose. Yeah. I called Jose to say, hey, nobody wants to see this release, the midnight release with me. Where are you going to go see it? He says, I'm going to go see it here. Okay, cool. I'm going to go with you. Sure. Meet me at this sushi bar. Cool. So I go. By the time I get there, he's a couple of sakis in already. And for some reason, he thought it was him and his friends. There was mirrors everywhere, and there was an exit sign, and he was having the greatest time of his life, laughing about this exit sign. And then a bunch of his friends show up, and there's a bunch of people that show up to watch this movie with him. And we get to the movie, and some people sit in certain area of the theater, some of his friends, and him and I, for some reason, we get up and we sit somewhere out. We're sitting there, about like 2 rows behind him, right? And behind this group of people, and there was a friend of yours and his girlfriend, and we're all sitting there. And then the group says, Jose, come sit over here. Like, come over here. What are you doing? And mind you, I don't know any of these people. I don't know any of your friends at the time. And he said, sure, I'll get down there. And he fucking gets up and he walks 2 or 3 rows down, and he leaves me with this couple who I have no idea who these people are. And I sit there and I watch the Clone Wars all by myself. And I said, well, I could have just done this at another movie theater. And I thought I'd say this sometime. How often do I say this story, Jose?
You tell me this story quite a bit. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to be right back. Free podcast. Okay, that was kind of a weird edit, but let's keep going with that one.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question: why wouldn't you just come sit next to my group of friends?
Because I was 18 and I had no idea what was going on.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I was not of my right mind that night, man. We were.
No, you weren't.
I felt
that's why
like
I give you the benefit of the doubt.
I kind of had a feeling like, oh, maybe this is not going to be that great. Clone Wars, the TV show, is amazing. The movie left a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
But the show eventually morphed into a classic.
Yes, absolutely. And I mentioned that story because it is an amazing segue to what we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. But welcome everyone to Half Step Down. I am your host, Rene Grano. This is Jose Martinez. How are you today, Jose?
I'm not doing bad at all, my friend. I'm not doing bad at all.
So this show is where we create playlists about any where we create playlists for any given situation. Sorry guys, it is late. I apologize. I am stuttering all over myself. Let's try this again.
Let's do it.
This is where we create playlists for any given situation. Jose, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience what we are going to be talking about today?
Okay, so today, the fun thing about making these playlists is we can kind of make them up for any situation we want. So
That's right.
we thought this would be fun. Renee, I'm going to ask you a question. Growing up, how many times did you pretend to be Han Solo?
Quite often, my friend.
Right?
Quite often.
Whether
All
you're
the
making
time, actually.
exactly right. Whether you're making the Kessel Run, avoiding asteroids, playing Dejuric. That's the name of the game. I think I pronounced it correctly.
That's right.
Now you know the Millennium Falcon had a sound system, and I'm assuming it would have been a tape deck. So today we're going to ask, if you were piloting the Millennium Falcon, what would you play? And these are those songs.
Yes, and these are those songs. Why don't we just jump right into it?
Let's
There
do
is
this.
no more introduction.
All right, guys. First song, first one was my pick. Limelight by Rush off Moving Pictures from 1981. First, let's R.I.P. Neil Peart, one of the all-time great rock drummers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to ask you, Renee, is there any band more closely associated with nerd culture than Rush?
It's all Rush all the time.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I can't think of any band that is more closely associated with nerd culture as a whole than Rush.
Let alone closer to Star Wars
Exactly.
than any other band.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the great film Fanboys.
Fanboys, yes. I was going to get into that. Did you see that with me at the Star Wars convention?
No. We went to the Star Wars convention, but not together that year.
Oh, man. Yeah. I was lucky enough to go to Star Wars Celebration when it was in LA.
Mm-hmm. Celebration 4.
Was it Celebration 4?
Yeah.
I think it was. And they had a rough cut of this movie, and it was to see it at a Star Wars convention. It was like the funniest thing we had ever seen. But man, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Rush is just a great band.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a couple songs here. Your song, your first pick and my first pick, I think, solidify what Star Wars is, because I think that these two songs have to guarantee that there would be on a mixtape, right? Okay. In the Millennium Falcon.
All right. Yeah.
And right. And I think you know why. And we'll explain that in a little bit. But Rush is one of those. Oh, fuck, man! Like they're just great. You know what I mean? Like it definitely something I want to do the Kessel Run with.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're talking about a band that's musically talented. They can be heavy. They can be light. You're never gonna play drums like Neil Peart.
No,
let's just be honest. I'm trying to say his name correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just overall a great song. And you're right. You can make the Kessel Run to this easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, the next one, Raise Your Hands by Bon Jovi off of 1986 classic Slippery When Wet. Dude, how do you think Bon Jovi has managed to stay so relevant for so long?
He's just good at what he does. There's some people out there, man, that have perfected their craft, man. And Bon Jovi is one of those few. My brother is a big Bon Jovi fan, and every time he says that to me, it throws me off, because he also says he listens to Dashboard Confessional. So, all right, and my brother's is in his mid-40s, so that definitely throws me off when he says those, when he puts those two bands in one sentence. But
yeah, I could see that happening. You're talking about two pretty diametrically opposed bands, although for a metal band, they are probably the lighter side of metal. They're as pop as metal gets, I think, Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another, like, you know what? Slippery When Wet, I don't think I'd ever listen to it all the way through, but like when I look at the track list, I'm like, oh, this is just all the hits. These are all the bangers that Bon Jovi ever had.
Just gotta play those hot tracks.
Dude, just the hot tracks, and obviously referenced in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a weird Bon Jovi story?
Yes.
When Marta and I were in Beirut visiting her family, we went to a karaoke bar, and we basically shut the place down in a bad way by singing a Bon Jovi song. I think we want to
Which
Dead
one
or
was that?
Alive. In Beirut, when there are all these old Arab people who want to sing old Arab songs, they were just
Yeah.
not into these two Americans
Yeah.
singing
Dead
out
or Alive.
Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was a good
So
time.
yeah. So the reason I chose "Raise Your Hand," I don't know if you remember, but this is the song that introduces us to Lone Star, and it introduces us to Bartholomew
Mm-hmm.
from Spaceballs. I figured why you have to pick the songs that go with classic Star Wars parody movies, and Spaceballs I think is top notch.
Spaceballs is a total classic, and you're right. I had forgotten that song was the one that introduced us.
That's right. Yeah. Mel Brooks, man, is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna point out. I just said introduces.
This is okay.
But no, go ahead, man. Let's talk about Mel Brooks. That's better.
Yeah, Mel Brooks is great. Yeah, Mel Brooks is. Gosh, man, like that dude. Spaceballs to me is my favorite Mel Brooks movie. I know you have Blazing Saddles and, Robin Hood Men in Tights, which is actually really, in my opinion, I think is a really underrated film.
Yeah.
I don't think many people remember Men in Tights as they do other Mel Brooks movies. But I think Spaceballs was just perfectly done.
Oh, no, dude. It was.
And it has Rick Moranis and John Candy. I mean, you really can't go wrong. Yeah.
You know what? And Mel Brooks considers it his weakest movie.
Interesting.
Because he says he didn't respect the material enough, but I love that movie. It's great.
Yeah.
Did you know?
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
No,
didn't mean to cut
go
you
ahead.
off, but
No,
did you know
go
that Carl Reiner used to go to Mel Brooks' house every day to watch a movie?
Yes, I did know that.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. Jerry Seinfeld talks about that in his Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah, he's talked about it in a bunch of podcasts, but I just think that's the most adorable thing until Carl Reiner passed away, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh man, two legends.
Yeah, absolutely. How about our next hot track for the Millennium Falcon?
Oh, the next hot one, man. So this is more of a personal thing for me, but dude, Styx, come sail away. Come stale away.
Is it stale? I don't think that song is ever going to get stale.
Come Sail Away, man. Off the Grand Illusion, 1977. I can sing this entire fucking song. I love this song.
Yeah. So can I? It's funny. I was introduced. Short story. I was introduced to Styx by South Park.
I was gonna mention that where he's like, every time I hear that song, I have to finish it.
Yes. There's a soundtrack. There's a South Park soundtrack that I bought when I was like 12 years old or something, and it had Eric Cartman singing "Come Sail Away," and that's how I was introduced to Styx. Yeah.
I will never forget. He's like, really? And then that small silence, and then what was it? Kyle's like, I'm sailing away, and like Cartman like shaking, like trying not to do it.
Yeah, I love that song, dude. That it's funny because when we send each other these lists, right? When we figure out what theme we're gonna work on, and when I saw that was the last one I think on your list or one of the second to last, and when I saw it, I was like, oh fuck yeah! Like I was so excited when I was like, yeah, like yes, why? Of course, why didn't I pick that? Damn it! Yeah. I love that song. Yeah,
dude. One thing that I noticed, and we're kind of going through, is like the 70s era rock has so much of its roots in nerdy shit. Like there's so many like Led Zeppelin songs that are about Lord of the Rings. And there's just like this kind of like combination of the two that these really nerdy guys just figured out we could probably get laid if we learn how to play the guitar.
That's absolutely true. And it's funny that you mentioned that because my mind immediately goes to the hit series Freaks and Geeks, because that's based in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
And that is, you know what I mean? And all of that is just, or is that an 80? I think, is that an 8? That's 80s, isn't it?
You know what, man? I'm not up with my Freaks and Geeks. I've only seen like an episode or two. I want to say it's 80s, though.
I think it's 80s. I'm sorry, then I might be wrong. But
close, though.
But pretty close. But what I was going with that is a lot of that stuff just coincides with how nerdy 70s classic rock really is, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, yeah, that's pretty rad. I didn't think about that until you mentioned it. I said, holy shit, you're absolutely right. That's something that's true. It's so true. Yeah.
And one last thing about this song is a great example of a song that has a a good long keyboard solo, which is something that I think rock now definitely misses.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's see what's next. Next one. Well, it's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Renee, how do you say the name of this song?
I don't know.
Sika Mika Nako.
Yeah.
Sika Mika Manako. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's off the Wayne's World soundtrack. You've heard it.
Yeah.
I think it's when you first kind of get introduced to them going out, right? It's when they're first going out.
This happens when Wayne and Tia Carrere's character, can I forget her name right now? Oh my gosh. Cassandra, when they're in the car, when he's about to go into the Guitar Center to buy the guitar, the Fender Strat, and he puts it in the CD player, and that's the song that gets played.
Nice.
And when I was younger, I always remember that song, and the reason I bought that soundtrack in my teens was because I wanted to know why I couldn't find that Red Hot Chili Pepper song anywhere, and that's when I found out that it was only on that record. And I'd like to pick songs, especially if you're flying the Millennium Falcon. Why wouldn't you just convert that into songs that you would use to drive? And that song is the song that they're driving to. So why couldn't I fly the Millennium Falcon with that song in the sound system?
No, absolutely. Right? Red Hot Chili Peppers are a conundrum to me sometimes, right? Like sometimes Anthony Kiedis, as an example, sometimes he'll have these super deep emotional lyrics, and then sometimes you get stuff like Sika Mika Naka Noko. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever the name of the song is.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and this is so different than the Peppers that I knew, right? Like, I mean, because when I was growing up, you had, Californication was a big deal, right? And then they came out with Stadium Arcadium, and that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers that I was becoming accustomed to. And when I heard that is when I started to say, oh man, there's other Red Hot Chili Pepper songs that are, in my opinion, a lot better, right? Buttsex Sugar Magic is awesome, So that's one of my favorites. And can you imagine just listening to something like that and just flying, right? Just flying around in space and
you're like working on the back, the things in hyperspace. I could dig that.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And I gotta ask you this question: are the Red Hot Chili Peppers the most LA band ever?
Well, yeah. I mean, Under the Bridge is all about LA.
The only other band I can think comes close is Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, they're pretty LA too. Yeah.
I don't know. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so my next one was Warp Riders by the band The Sword, off of the album The Warp Riders from 2010. I think I know the answer to this, Renee, but how are you on concept albums? You a fan?
Kind of. I guess, I mean, I do love me some Coheed. So.
I mean, we had talked about this. Coheed does pretty much nothing but concept albums.
Yeah.
I like me a good concept album. And I love me The Sword, man. These guys have like a vintage stoner metal vibe to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
This whole record, this was their first concept record. They wrote a story about it. I think it became a comic book called The Night Sky Cried Tears of Fire. And it's all about like these guys going through like space and time. If you listen to the whole record, there's just all these like allusions to that kind of stuff. But I could definitely see me popping this tape in and just kind of blasting these songs.
When I first saw this, I was like, oh, The Sword. And I immediately thought to the comic book. Do you remember that?
Oh, The Sword was a great comic, man.
Yeah, that was a great story. That was a good book. This, I've never heard this band before. And when I heard it, it was really something I can get into. I really enjoyed it, actually. And, concept albums are very far in between nowadays. So it's pretty cool to know that there's still people out there trying to do that kind of stuff. My concept kind of lives and breathes Coheed. Anything that isn't 70s, right? Anything that isn't 70s, in my opinion, like concepts aren't really around anymore,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I know like not Red Hot Chili Peppers, but I know there have been like I know My Chemical Romance had a couple concepts in some of their albums. Like there have been, I think they're starting to make a resurgence because I hear it more and more and more. I think because if you're trying to sell a whole record, you want to get something behind it. So I don't know, but I've noticed an uptick. But I think that
maybe now they have to change, right? And I think now because of the fact that it's so easy now to just create playlists like we're doing, right? To make, hey, let's pick this song, this song, this song. I think for people to want to go and listen to your stuff, I think now you definitely have to create something more that, you know, you have to hear this song to get the rest of them, right?
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's like, I think it comes from the point of view of like, you can do something creative in like multiple outlets, but I also want to say it's I think for me it's a big metal thing. Like metal bands like to do this kind of stuff because so much of metal is kind of like fanciful, and you can do these kind of like big albums about like this one, like traveling through time, albums about like all sorts of stuff. I have another band on here who's got a concept album that's based on something else, but I think it's a thing in like metal and harder rock that like concept albums are making a big comeback.
You know, now that you mention it, I guess it's true. I've never really thought of it that way because the Wonder Years, for example, they have 3 records that is considered a trilogy of records that it's a long concept about living in suburbia, right? About living and wanting to leave your home and you know, hating it and loving it, right? And then they just came out with their latest album, Sister Cities, which is the concept of how they wrote a song in each individual city that they toured in, and that's what they're singing about in the record. So yeah, I guess it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, you know, you don't really think about it until somebody like you just articulates it in a certain way. Like, oh, I guess I do enjoy our concept albums, but I guess sometimes, you know, if you're not really delving into specifics, I guess it doesn't really dawn on you, I guess.
No, yeah, I feel you. Yeah. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
All right, our next one, man. Superman by Goldfinger from the 1997 album Hang Ups, man. This is a great band and a great song. But
isn't that on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack?
Brother, my dude, I think this is the song that kind of brought them out of the ska obscurity. I think it cannot be understated how important the original Tony Hawk soundtrack was to kind of bring back punk. To the mainstream. Punk was big in the 90s, like 94. And then you started to see it kind of die off. But once that soundtrack hit, man, like you started seeing, I would not be surprised if that latest batch of bands that came out in the 2000s were kind of directly inspired by the Tony Hawk soundtrack because it was huge. And this song was right up there, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
you know,
God.
This song is oh, man, this song is awesome. I love this song. It is definitely a gem. And this song always brings me back to Tony Hawk, right?
Dude,
like, and you're right. Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, man, every time I hear this song, I picture Tony Hawk's. I just got the remaster, and I'm and every time this song comes on, dude, I am in 9th grade again, rushing home Friday so I can just play Tony Hawk all weekend.
How's the remastered looking?
It's awesome. It's Tony Hawk. It's a better looking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. And that's all I wanted.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I have to ask this question because I looked it up. I thought that this could have been another. I know in one of our earlier episodes we had talked about Bayside, who I thought I saw them open for Guttermouth. But I got to ask you this question. What is... Well, let me preface it with this. One, I always appreciate when a ska band from the 90s is still around. And even though Goldfinger is not like a straight up ska band, there's definitely some influence there. They still play live. They rock it now. Mike Herrera from MXPX is on bass. For Goldfinger, they'll do stuff like that all the time. I've seen them a couple times. But what is your favorite now defunct ska band from the 90s? And I'll tell you what mine is.
Defunct ska band from then to now?
Like, band that was big in the 90s, it was a ska band that is just gone now.
Oh, that's just gone?
Yeah, that like broke up. Because when ska died...
I think that goes back to the conversation that we had in a previous episode where we talk about if we have favorite ska bands. Like, I don't really have a particular favorite ska band, but I do love certain records that I just love to listen to.
I hear you.
So I don't know if I could have a favorite. Yeah.
Can I tell you what my favorite now defunct ska band is?
Who?
Hoobastank.
You know what? I had a feeling you were going that way. I had a feeling you were going that way.
So I saw Hoobastank open for Homegrown.
Yep. I remember you said that to me.
And for the longest time, I'm like, after we had that whole incident with Guttermouth and Bass, I'm like, well, maybe I misremembered. For this episode, I looked it up. They had an album called Muffins that was a ska album when they first started, before they became the power rock pop hit making Hoobastank that we know of today. But to this day, I remember like Hoobastank, because how do you forget that name?
Yeah. But and there were, and even if you would, when you said that to me the first time, I thought that makes so much sense. It's Hoobastank, right?
Yeah.
Like, that if that's not a ska name, I don't know. I don't know.
It's a very ska name. Yeah, totally.
Right. Yeah.
And they, I mean, I must have seen them 2000, 2001. That ska bubble at Pop, man. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, No Doubt had moved on. Save Ferris was gone. Real Big Fish and all the other kind of like quote unquote more underground ska bands that kind of found their foothold. You know who
would you consider Flogging Molly a ska band?
No. Flogging Molly they fall into that kind of weird subgenre that basically just includes them, the Dropkick Murphys, and the Pogues. Like an Irishy, folky punk. I don't know why it works so well, but it does. Yeah.
Yeah. The Hippos is a band that I remember a lot from the early 2000s.
There you go.
Yeah.
I do love me some Flogging Molly.
Yeah.
All right. Next one.
Sweet. Yeah, next one.
So, next song, Blood and Thunder by Mastodon, off of 2004's Leviathan. This has to be the dorkiest group of dudes in a metal band I have ever seen. They look.
What would you say that?
So they're very. You've got two guys that look like straight up metalheads, and then two guys who their drummer Bran Daler. It looks like a total dork. He's just like short hair, really skinny, killer drummer. Sings and plays drums a lot of the time. You've got two of the guys that basically look like wildlings from Game of Thrones, and then they're just they're dorky, they're funny, and they write crazy, awesome heavy metal.
Is it funny to think that 2 years after the series finale, Game of Thrones is a name drop now?
It is a name drop, and these guys were on an episode.
Were they? Oh, yeah. I think you said that to me before.
They cameoed in the episode where they were north of the wall.
Yeah.
And this was I miss those days. Oh man, remember when Game of Thrones was like a thing?
Yeah.
It was like looking forward to it. I was thinking about today, how fun it is to be a member of a fandom while it's still like active.
Yeah.
They just released. This is a small tangent, but there's an album that just got released called. God, I don't remember what it was called, but it's basically Adventure Time remixes. I think it's called BMO's Mixtape, because it's called BMO's Mixtape. It's original remixes from Adventure Time's new episodes that are on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember, God, man, like when you're a member of a fandom while the thing is still happening, it's like the best feeling. But like, Adventure Time's basically over except for these new HBO episodes, but the album's pretty cool. Anyway, this album is a concept album based off of Moby Dick.
Oh, interesting.
And you can hear like White Whale, like the chorus to the song.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's true. I never thought. Yeah, interesting. Cool.
If you had to write a song or write an album based on an existing story, what would it be?
When Harry Met Sally.
Nice. You're gonna need to make that happen. Yeah,
When Harry Met Sally.
Oh my God, that's the best answer ever.
I have a soft spot for that film. I love that movie.
We're gonna make it happen.
Yes, let's make it happen with our Princes of the Universe.
Dude, that's the band, Princes of the Universe.
That's the band that's going to create the When Harry Met Sally concept record.
You're going to see us at the local state fair very soon, once coronavirus is over.
Very, very soon.
All right, our next song, Decrescendo by the RX Bandits, off The Resignation from 2002. In looking up this band, is it true, Renee, some people call them the Pharmaceutical Bandits?
That's what they were called at first. And then they changed it to the RX Bandits. When they were a ska band, they were the Pharmaceutical Bandits. Yeah.
They were
RX Bandits.
they are one of those bands that I don't think I'd ever really heard until you recommended it. I see their logo everywhere, and I've heard so many people that love them, but I don't think I'd actually stopped and heard them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So, this song, I've actually have some good experiences with the song because I created a long time ago a mix CD or mixtape that I could not put down. Like every song at the time that I just loved was on that one, and Discrescendo was the last song on the Resignation and was the last song on my mixtape. I just feel that that's the perfect song. Like when you know you're getting to your destination, for some, it just feels like, I don't know. I think that band was really underrated for its time. The musicians in that band were awesome. I just think that the niche of the kind of third wave ska punk band that they were was definitely was just very small, right? And that Resignation album was really popular, but just after that, they kind of got more progressive, more, they kind of did their own experimental rock, I guess. And I kind of fell off as well. But it's that song is definitely something I'd be jamming to, right, in the Millennium Falcon, riding everywhere.
Oh yeah, I could see that. There was a lot more ska on this list than I thought you were going to put on there.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but I was like, okay, I can see that. Do you think Chewbacca would be into ska?
I don't think so. I don't think he would be into ska. I think he'd be annoyed by ska.
Chewie's metalhead, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Chewie's metalhead. I bet you Lando's big into ska though.
I can see that.
I could see him be a ska, being a rude boy.
I think R2D2 would be in the ska.
He's practically checkered already.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey. How about the next one?
All right, next one.
Well, actually, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Who has which character in that has been part of the Millennium Falcon can you see wearing checkered Vans?
Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Princess Leia. I could see her wearing checkered
Rocking
Vans.
the checkered Vans. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Maybe even Luke, but definitely Leia.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they're twins. Makes sense.
Twins. You know who's probably this massive rude boy?
Who?
Nim Num. I can see him just skanking away, dude.
Yeah.
Just going for it.
I think if anything, Lobot. I mean, Lando just sets up Lobot to start skanking everywhere he goes.
There you go.
Do you remember? We went to go see the Voodoo Glow Skulls at a Virgin Mega store.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. It was a free show, and I remember we were standing in the back. We were, and then the circle, the dance pit, the dance circle got big, right? And there was this one guy, I'll never forget him. He kind of looked like Mikey a little bit, kind of had like a Mikey-esque sort of look on him. And he was just trying to like punk, right? Like start jumping everywhere and start punching and stuff. But for those of you who've never been to a ska show, you don't do that at ska shows. You dance at a ska show. You skank at a ska show. And when you see these people, like they were skanking everywhere in circles, just skanking left and right, and this dude was just like moving everywhere. I'll never forget, this girl looked at him, had like this meanest mug on her face, just angry, and just went and waved no like this, and just like moved her finger left and right. He goes, "You don't do that," and she just went back to her skanking ways. I thought it was hilarious, dude. I was like, "Whoa." She just shut it down.
That's hard because the Voodoo Glow Skulls, while they are a ska band, they're very fast and very aggressive. So I've been in like pits at Voodoo Glow Skull shows. Yeah. But the tradition is like you can do that circle thing, but you're skanking, right? Like you're doing that whole little dance. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah,
it's good times.
Yeah, you're right. I have a lot of ska on this mixtape.
Because I went all like traditional. I figured like sci-fi. Like spaceship, I'm gonna go metal. I threw in a couple of little things, but no, man, but it works. It works.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
All right. The next one I put on here is "Invaders Must Die" by The Prodigy, off "Invaders Must Die" from 2009. First off, let's go R.I.P. to Keith Flint, who just passed away not too long ago. But one of the cool things I always liked about this band is that I think the Prodigy, and I've seen it written down many times, they are the band that made it okay for punks and metalheads to like electronic music.
Yeah.
Because before them, there was like this big diametric of opposition. Like, you cannot like any kind of electronic music if you're into punk or metal. And these guys made it okay.
The only thing I remember from Prodigy is Smack My Bitch Up.
So that...
And not necessarily the song, but the video.
The video. I had that written in my notes here, dude. That video was massive. And it was one of the first videos where I remember, like, at the end, you're like, oh, damn. Because, spoiler alert, it's a girl. You know, we might even need to explain. When did that video come out? When was that song big? Oh, my God.
98, 99, maybe.
98, 99, right? So if
I remember that video being porn.
Basically. Let me see.
Because we had scrambled channels when I was a kid. So when you can watch MTV at night and Prodigy and Smack My Bitch Up was on there, that was something that was a little gem for. So
just to give some context, so I looked it up. It was from 97. The Fat of the Land, and the video was basically, it was a first-person perspective of a person having a night out where they were basically just having sex with everyone. They were doing drugs, getting in fights. It was super violent. They were like hitting women, doing, it was just crazy, right? And then at the end of the video, spoiler alert, the person looks into the camera and it's a woman.
Yeah.
And
into a mirror. The mirror, right?
Yeah. And it was like, oh, snap, because the whole video, they're just going crazy. But the Prodigy is a great band. And this song...
because at the time, you would have never thought, that that's something, right? At that moment in time, you never thought that a woman would do the things that you saw in the video, I guess, right? Because it was pretty aggressive in that video. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to remember, this is like 30 years ago, right? Like, or 20 years ago. And it's, even the fact that you said you had to wait till after 10 p.m. to watch the video, because so folks, man, there was a point in time where if you wanted to watch a music video, you had to wait for it to come on MTV. Mm-hmm. And this one was so graphic. Yeah, you're right. They couldn't show it during regular time.
This one, Jeremy, was a video that you had to wait till late night to watch because right? Remember that when Pro Jam did Jeremy? I remember that video was kind of hard because I don't remember watching the video much. Don't remember much of it, but I remember that the only time I was able to watch that video was in the evening because you weren't able to watch it in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That was a good one. That was a good pick. I like that song.
That's a good one, and this was, for a while, this was on every trailer ever. Yeah. Great song though.
Every Crank trailer. Is it Crank? Man. Yeah.
This was even on the trailer for Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I love that movie.
I've never seen it.
Oh, dude, that movie is so true to the book. Oh, geez, it's so great. I remember. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You tell me, and then I'll tell you why I've never seen it.
I remember reading Scott Pilgrim when it was. I used to work at a comic book store when I was 20 years old, and I was there for about a year, and so my brain was just racked on comics at all times, right? And Scott Pilgrim had just started coming out, and I remember buying it the minute it came out, and it was just awesome. And it was so cool because the songs that Sex Bomb do in the book, it actually has chords that you can strum to and actually try to sing the song.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty cool. I remember there was one in there.
So let me tell you why I've never seen the movie.
By the way, he's eating.
I'm eating.
He is not professional.
Not at all. This is a free podcast.
Not a professional broadcaster.
Professional would imply we were getting paid for this. But the reason I have not seen this movie is I was really excited to see this movie until I went to the panel at Comic-Con. And fucking Michael Cera gets up on stage, and I was a fan of his up until then. He gets on stage in a goddamn like cheap Captain America costume and refuses to answer any questions.
What?
Like they would ask him a question and he would tell a story about like Captain America. And at first it was funny, But at a certain point, it got so annoying and off-putting that I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm never going to watch this stupid movie. And I have still not seen it. But I'm going to let it go because I have heard nothing but good things about this one. And Edgar Wright is one of the great underrated directors of the past 20 years, man. He can direct the shit out of anything.
Yeah. I agree with you. No, yeah, dude, absolutely. It's kind of I'm at a loss for words. I forgot what I was about to say. I had something in my mind and I forgot. Sorry, let's just keep moving. And if I remember, I'll tell you. Sorry, guys, it's kind of late.
No, and I feel you. And one of the things about Scott Pilgrim is I think this was one of the first movies that was so hyped at Comic-Con that didn't really live up to the hype in terms of money.
Yeah.
Because I remember...
Kind of like Watchmen.
Because do you remember when Comic-Con started blowing up and then every movie studio would send millions of dollars worth of shit there? Thinking like, oh, if we can just win over this crowd, we're gonna make all this money back. And this is the first movie where I remember, dude, this was on that Hyatt. This was the entire wall. You could see it for like miles. This giant Scott Pilgrim ad, and I don't think it was a very successful movie in the theaters, man.
Yeah,
crazy.
You know, because actually the Scott Pilgrim books were actually they were well received, but I don't think they were as popular as people made them out to be. That makes sense. Like I know, like the niche was really small. Yeah. From what I remember working at the shop, you know, they were pretty small.
Right. It's like not everything is going to be the Avengers, right? Like, you can't bank just because comic book fans are going to like it that their girlfriends or boyfriends or friends are going to want to watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. I know that hating Michael Cera, but are you saying that you never seen Superbad? If you hate Michael Cera?
And that's why I went to the panel, because I loved Superbad and I thought he was hilarious in that movie. So when I saw this dude just being a dick, I'm like, no, fuck that.
But have you seen Superbad since?
I haven't seen it in a while, but I have fond memories of it, but who knows if it stood the test of time.
It's so good. It's so good.
I'm sure
that's one of my favorites.
It was a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We're almost at the end. Invaders Must Die. Last song on our list, man. Elevated by State Champs. The Finer Things 2013. Renee, who is the biggest pop punk fan in the Star Wars universe?
I would say oh man. Who would be the biggest pop punk fan? I would say I don't know. That's a good one. I'm trying to think. Who would you think it'd be?
Neem Num.
He just said Neem Num was the skull guy.
I just like saying his name. Okay. Let's see. Who do you think? Let's. If
that's the case, I'm gonna say Yak Face.
Yak. Let's see. Who else would we? God, who would be a big? I bet you the Jawas are always bumping that shit, right?
Could be.
Maybe the Jawas.
Yeah, could be. I'm thinking. You know what? I would think that probably one of the recent Star Wars films, one of the characters from one of the recent ones, I think would be a pop punk guy or a pop punk girl. I don't know which one would it be.
You think Poe Dameron?
I could see Poe being a pop punk kid.
I could see Poe. I could see
when he was younger.
Well, yeah, you know, I could see definitely when they were younger is Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, I
could see that. When she got older, I bet you she's listening to like Alicia Keys or something. I don't know, but
maybe Finn. I think Finn would have been a pop punk kid.
Yeah,
if Finn wasn't a stormtrooper, I think he could have been.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of Ezra Bridger. Now I'm getting into Rebels. Going deep cuts now.
Yeah, you're going deep.
Deep cuts.
Well, I bet. What are you talking about? You said Nien Nunez said Yak Face. Like, how much more deeper can you get? Well, like Yak Face was shown for half a second in A New Hope, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Now we're getting into extended universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was an interesting choice, man. What made you pick this one?
So, this song just, I feel so. I'm not a huge State Champs guy. But I've seen them a handful of times when, they open for some other bands that I go see live, right? Mm-hmm. And for some reason, this song always gets me. I really like this song. And I feel that if given the proper channels, this band had or the has the opportunity to make it bigger than what they were or what they are. And I really do think that Elevated is a song that could have got them to it, because I just feel like it's a big, it could become a big song. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And when I listen to this song, I just think it's such a fun song to listen to when you're driving. So I would think that this song would be just as good as when you're flying the Falcon. Like how much, you know what I mean? I chose some of these songs that because those are certain songs that I love to listen to when I drive. So when I drive, why wouldn't I be able to listen to when I fly? So I just really like this song. And I like to go woo in the beginning of the song.
You give it a little Ric Flair?
I give it a little Ric Flair at all times. And it's funny because every time I do the Ric Flair, when this song happens to come on my playlist or radio or whatever, when I'm in the car with my girlfriend and I'll do the Ric Flair, I always scare her for some reason. She's scared of the Ric Flair noise.
One of my favorite things to do whenever I'm playing drums in a band is whenever someone messes up, including me, is I, as loud as I can, I Ric Flair, just to bring attention to it. And if I have a microphone that I'm like singing backups, I will do it in the microphone.
I actually have a really great Ric Flair story.
Tell me.
When I used to work for a cargo company where I used to deliver packages and stuff. I used to deliver in the area of Brentwood and Westwood. And I was driving down I was heading down San Vicente Boulevard, and there was a Coffee Bean there. And I saw Ric Flair walking into the Coffee Bean. And I screamed out. I was in the van and I lowered my window, which I think was Ric Flair. I mean, if not, I know he's from Georgia. I hope it was Ric Flair, because looking back, it's like, you know, he looked very much like Ric Flair. And I lowered my window in the van and I Ric Flaired as loud as I could. Mm-hmm. And the dude looked over and he just walked into the Coffee Bean. And I closed my window and I said, did I just Ric Flair in the van? And then I was driving by. I said, was that even Ric Flair?
Nice.
And then I thought to myself, did I just Ric Flair somebody who probably doesn't know who Ric Flair is? I was just out there, dude. I was like, oh my God, I need to go home.
I love it. I love it.
And that was my Ric Flair.
I like it.
Yeah. So how about our recommendations for the week?
All right. Hello. So, I hope everyone now has a good soundtrack for when they're flying the Millennium Falcon, or at least imagining it. But for me, my recommendation, if we're going to go on the sci-fi tip, I'm going to go with, just because the trailer just dropped, and I have been a big fan of these books for a while, Dune. If you've never read Dune, take some time, get a good night's sleep, and read yourself Dune. I have the first 3 novels written. They're hard to read. They're deep, but man, they're rewarding. And I have a feeling that if Denis Villeneuve does a good job with these could be the next big sci-fi thing, man. Because it is.
So you've read Messiah, and
I've read Dune Messiah, and I've read Children of Dune.
Oh, geez. Okay.
And I've read Dune. I'm moving on to the next ones. I've had the books for years, but I remember I read Dune 15 years ago. But I highly recommend.
You probably read that longer.
Huh?
You probably read it longer, because I remember when you told me to read Dune, and I tried to read Dune, and it took me quite some time to finish it, but I finished it, and it was very intense. And I was like, man, I said, do I really want to read Dune Messiah? And then I don't think I ever did, but I have read Dune twice, actually.
Yeah, Dune Messiah gets a little bit. I mean, Dune Messiah and Dune. Yeah, Messiah is a little bit. I would say it's like easier to get into. It's kind of a more straightforward story, but Children of Dune gets real weird. And I will tell you this story. I remember it actually took me 2 attempts to read A Children of Dune, not because it's a bad book, but because I am a very slow reader. And if I put a book down for too many days in a row, I kind of forget what's happening. And I always want to kind of get fresh, like take the whole thing on fresh. And I remember I started reading it. I was about a quarter of the way through. And then life got really busy and I put it down. But while I was still reading it, I took it to, oh my God, what's that thing called? Jury duty. I had jury duty. I had to go. So I took the book with me. and there was a guy who was standing next to me who saw me had the book, and he goes, "You're reading Children of Dune?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Those books changed my life, man." And I'm like, "Oh man, that's awesome." And he goes, "The next one," he goes, "the one you're reading, it gets weird, and the next one gets really weird." And that's all he told me. And based off the ending of Children of Dune, I'm sure that part 4 gets pretty weird. That's all I'll say for that one. But the trailer looks great. I've been looking forward to a good adaptation of that book for ever. I know the David Lynch one from the 80s has some pretty legit scenes, some very funny stuff. You want to see Sting in a codpiece? Of course you do. That's in there. The Sci-Fi Channel miniseries did a pretty good job of the story, but obviously it was a Sci-Fi Channel miniseries from like the late 90s, early 2000s. So the special effects were not all there. So I'm excited for this movie.
I read Dune when I was working at the comic store because we would play Dune all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was a handful of movies that we would play. We had a big TV and we would just, we'd have a DVD player. We'd just throw them on there. Dune was played very often. That's all I really remember. But I know we had like 8 movies that we would just, rotate. Mm-hmm. And Dune was always there. And I remember I always caught myself watching. Like I always caught myself watching. Yeah. Go ahead.
The sleeper has awoken. That's basically all of Dune. It's just so much whispering and exposition.
Dune was ASMR before ASMR was a thing.
Oh yeah. Although you know my favorite line in that entire movie. It's towards the end when I think it's towards the end when the Emperor wants to talk to Baron Harkonnen and he goes, "Bring me the floating fat man," and that is one of my all-time favorite movie quotes ever.
That's a good one. I like that. I am going to stay within the sci-fi realm as well and recommend the Southern Reach trilogy. Jose, have you ever read these books?
No.
Annihilation, Authority. Have you seen the movie with Natalie Portman? Annihilation movie?
I saw Annihilation and I thought it was criminally underrated.
Oh man, so I saw the trailer to Annihilation, and then when I saw the trailer, I said, I want to read this book before I watch the movie. Mm-hmm. And it took me a while to start because I'm the same way. I'm actually the same way. If I get a book and I start reading it, and then eventually, if I put it down for a few days, I have to redo it. So I actually did this 3 different times. It's actually a short book. It's not that long at all. But it just took me a while to get through it. And when I finally did, I was in awe. It actually took me like 2 years to watch Annihilation. And so I read Annihilation, I watched Annihilation, and then I read Authority. I haven't read the third one yet. And it is something that I actually love the book as much as I love the movie. It kind of strays away from the book, which is okay at times. And it's a very, very good movie. It's unfortunate that they already said that they're not going to make the next 2.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks, but I definitely recommend those. Those are some awesome stuff. It's pretty dope. I recommend you read Annihilation if you guys have a chance. The whole trilogy. Well, I can't say the whole thing right because I haven't read the third one, but as of right now, Annihilation and Authority are definitely up there for me over the sci-fi realm. Yeah, because it's not right. It's not like outer space sci-fi, which is usually what we're accustomed to, but it definitely is in the sci-fi realm because of all the things that happen in Area X.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that movie leaves you off on basically a cliffhanger.
Yes. Yeah. Because I think they had an idea of making the other 2, but I think the director said, nope, I'm not going to do them.
Damn.
And I don't think they're going to keep going. Yeah. The one that I'm really excited for, though, to stay in the same realm is the Planet of the Apes. Disney already announced that they're going to do a couple of projects of Planet of the Apes.
Nice.
And for the audience, I am a big, very, very big Rise, the prequels to the Planet of the Apes, so Rise, Battle, and War for Planet of the Apes. I love those movies. I actually have those 3 movies on Blu-ray because they're some of my favorites to date. And when I was pretty bummed out to find out that we were going to get a fourth one, because War for the Planet of the Apes didn't do well in the theaters, but it was really well received. Right. So that kind of sucks. So now that Disney has the rights, I think they're definitely going to do some good stuff. I mean, so far, dude, Disney has not disappointed when it comes to certain things. So
yeah, I've liked what they're doing so far.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for that.
I have an interesting question for you just before we go. Because I was listening to the Conan O'Brien podcast, and he was talking to J.J. Abrams. And he made this great point about how trailers give away movie endings. And he was talking about how his kid knows all these movie references just because they're referenced so much. But he made this comment, and I thought it was great. He said, if Planet of the Apes was made today, the shot of the Statue of Liberty on the beach would have been in the trailer.
Yeah. That's so true. Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're absolutely right, because that's the big reveal at the end of that movie, man. Like, that's what's in the Forbidden Zone. It's like, oh man, and I could already see like that low rumble, but you just see the Statue of Liberty, so that twist is gone.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. You know, Planet of the Apes as a franchise has definitely taken leaps and bounds, you know, after the first one. Like, because you have apes in space, and then you have then you throw in time travel, and it's very out there. You know what I mean? So I was really happy, and I've seen all of them, and I'm really happy to when Rise came out, to see something, to really see something a little more serious. You know, especially after the original, because then you have the Mark Wahlberg one, which is we don't talk about that, but you know what I'm saying? It just kind of throws things it's like, dude, these movies are like, they just get weird, you know? It's so impossible for some of these things to happen, you know?
Yeah.
So I like how it happens. So,
and you know what, man? Like, and this is something I think people forget, but as time goes on, you see it more and more, right? But Planet of the Apes was a massive franchise. Like in the 60s and 70s, it was everywhere. It just didn't have that staying power. Like, I don't know if staying power is the right word, but it didn't age well as like special effects got better. And then I'm sure like once Star Wars hit, like that just became a whole different thing. But you always hear people talk about how in the 60s and 70s, man, Planet of the Apes was like the thing. All the kids loved it.
Well, look at Doctor Who, how long it took for them to
totally
to get to where, you know what I mean? And I mean, we're big Whovians here, so you know, I big Doctor Who fan. Have you seen Jodie Whittaker?
Have you seen
the 13th Doctor?
I got to get through Capaldi, but then eventually I'll get there, man.
Capaldi has some really good stories. Absolutely, I think Capaldi is very underrated.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, because you have, you know, when you go from David Tennant to Matt Smith, I think it's kind of hard, right? So but there's a new Doctor coming, I think.
Oh, are they going to regenerate again?
I think they're regenerating. I'm not 100% sure if Jodie Whittaker's coming back, but if you guys know, please leave us and let us know in the comments below.
Sure. To
let us know if there's some Jodie Whittaker action coming. But Jose, why don't you give us some plugs?
All right, let's get down to it. The plugs. All right, guys, if you want to find everything about us, you can always go to halfstepdownpod.com. That's your number one stop shop. God, that's terrible. Yeah. Go to our website. That's where you're going to find all our...
be a t-shirt.
Yeah, number one stop shop. halfstepdownpod.com. All our episodes are there. Links to our social media accounts. Everything we post ends up there. If you're on Instagram and Twitter, please follow us at halfstepdownpod. If you're on Facebook, look us up, facebook.com/halfstepdownpod. We are on YouTube. Again, I've said this, but hopefully by the time you hear this episode, we will have our custom URL. But if not, just search in the YouTube search bar, Half Step Down Pod. Don't forget to check out our Spotify playlists. The links are in the description. And don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. And if you like what you hear, spread the word. And also, don't forget, you can actually follow our Half Step Down Spotify to see all our playlists when they come out.
Yeah. And Half Step Down Radio.
Oh, yeah. Half Step Down Radio.
Half Step Down Radio on titanradio.org on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. It is just a cool way for me to throw on some music for you guys, and just to remind you guys that we have a podcast. So it's a lot of fun. It's a way for me to play some cool stuff, some pop punk, some ska, apparently a lot of ska, apparently, because that's a lot of my playlist today. And and give some cool shout outs to my cousin here. And it's kind of hard for us to have this podcast well, not hard, but it's difficult for us to play music on this podcast. So a good alternative is to do a show on internet radio where I can show you guys some cool songs. So that's always something cool too, if you guys want to go ahead and give a listen at Thursday night, 7 p.m. on titanradio.org.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, everybody, have a good night. Jose, you have yourself a great night, and we shall see each other soon. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Yeah, give it up for